This is The Sports Life.
On behalf of the Pasadena Tournament of Roses, I invite all fans to Pasadena on January 1st, 2001, to see their team, the Purdue Boilermakers, play in the 87th Rose Bowl game as the Big Ten champions.
And welcome into the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Schettler. A magic moment for Boiler football in 2000. As a team led by Drew Brees, coached by Joe Tiller, in a three-way tie for the championship in the Big Ten along with Northwestern and Michigan, get the invite to the Rose Bowl, their first since 1969. And one of the great things about that whole thing, Dalton, was the fact that Drew Brees was hurt his senior year in high school. Everybody kind of gave up on him, but Joe Tiller did not. Good move for Coach Tiller.
I mean, not only do you have the success then, but what Drew Brees has meant to that program and that university ever since, all the donations, I mean, that's a pretty heavy decision to stick with Drew Brees.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a fun show lined up for you as always, and one of the things we're going to revisit a little bit is a chat we had with Mark Silverman. He's the head of Fox Sports right now, but at one time he was the head of this thing called the Big Ten Network.
And that's going to be a great story to revisit how this whole thing got launched and became what it is. Other than that, we're going to be catching up with the first ever Sparty. Sparty's one of the best mascots in not just the Big Ten, but the country. The first one to ever be Sparty, his name's Dave Russell, and he's been honored recently going into the Varsity S Club at Michigan State. We'll catch up with him. But also, look, Will, you and I have heard all the discussions. We've talked in some of these discussions. There's a lot going on with college sports, and it has a negative stigma. Whether you're talking revenue sharing, NIL, transfer portal, there's a lot, and some things are turning some fans off. But a lot of coaches that we've talked to in recent times have shared why they still think coaching is good and why all this has so much good to it. We're going to try bringing some light to this world of darkness that is college sports.
This might be groundbreaking, Dalton.
That's right. It doesn't feel like there's too much of it, so we're going to do our best to bring you some of that straight from the coaches.
Well, we have a name change coming up.
Yeah, we do. Memorial Stadium in Champaign, Illinois is getting a little bit of a name change, as you mentioned, because the Geese family donated $100 million to the Illinois Athletic Department, so it will now be known as Geese Memorial Stadium. And Athletic Director Josh Whitman there at Illinois actually talked a little bit about it in this pre-produced video that the Athletic Department put out on social media. Here's the video explaining the significance of it, the details of it, and everything you need to know.
Each year, the University of Illinois produces thousands of graduates capable of bringing transformational change to the world. Occasionally, one of them returns home and brings that transformational change to us. Larry Geese, proud alumnus and the namesake of our world-renowned Geese College of Business, is one such person. With his record-breaking $100 million commitment, Larry is opening an exciting new partnership with Fighting Illini Athletics that promises to accelerate our program's upward trajectory. More championships, more graduates, more fans, more impact on our campus, our region, and our world. Larry is making this gift in honor of his late father, Larry Geese Sr., who was a veteran of the United States Army. To commemorate his father's service and Larry's remarkable support, we will add the Geese name to our beloved home of Fighting Illini football. From this day forward, it will be known as Geese Memorial Stadium. With Larry's support, Geese Memorial Stadium will continue to stand as a proud beacon of hope, service, and sacrifice for those who have served our great nation. A unifying force and a gathering place for lifetime memories past, present, and future. Please join us in thanking Larry Geese, one of this university's great philanthropists, in marking this seminal moment in the storied history of Geese Memorial Stadium. Unbelievable donation, $100 million.
That's a lot of money.
It is. I mean, I don't know what you do besides just say congratulations. It's kind of hard to comprehend. I mean, if you won the recent Powerball that was at $1.8 billion, it kind of makes sense to make a donation like that. But, I mean, that just goes to show the significance in the impact that Illinois has on the Geese family and vice versa as well. The Geese family, certainly with Illinois.
Magic moment, no doubt, for the Fighting Illini. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life Show, we're going to visit with a guy who was the first Sparty ever. But first, this time out.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, one of the things Dalton and I have talked a lot about on this show over the years is the tradition of college athletics. And when you talk about tradition, mascots, well, they are a big part of that discussion. And imagine this. Back in 1989, an engineering student from Hastings, Michigan, got tapped on the shoulder, and he became the first ever Sparty mascot. And his name is Dave Russell, and he's joining us today. And Dave, thanks for being part of our show. I guess the obvious question for me to ask you first is, how in the heck did you become the first Sparty?
I'll give you somewhat of the short version. My first year at Michigan State, I was on a spring break trip going to Florida, had a layover in an airport, and I sat next to Judd Heathcote. We just started talking, and he asked me to come to his office
after I got back from spring break, he said he might have something for me to do. And he wanted me to run the Spartan Spirits. At the time, that's the same thing with the Izzone is now, was the Spartan Spirits. We ended up selling out. Plus, I got to know people in the athletic department by working through the ticket office. I ended up working in the ticket office as a student. And in the summers, I stayed there, worked in the ticket office, and I played basketball with university full-time employees at lunch. And one of the people that I played basketball with was on the committee to bring back Sparty. And he asked me if I'd be interested in doing it. And naturally, I said yes. Next thing you know, they had me go to Tennessee to cheerleading camp with the cheerleaders and a whole bunch of other mascots. So that's how I became Sparty.
Okay, so now you're Sparty. So what was that like? Did you have like an agenda of things, or what happened after that?
The biggest thing that we wanted to do was get out in front of people and pay attention to the kids. The kids, whenever you walked on the sideline, they always wanted the high fives. And so really that was the biggest thing. One of the things I did learn when we went to mascot camp was exaggerate all of your movements. If you look at the Sparties that now, they exaggerate their movements. They're really great at what they do. There's no question.
Well, for example, if there's a basketball game, there'll be two Sparties, one working the first half, one working the second. In 1989, when you were the Sparty, you worked every event. How was that?
It wasn't real good on my grade point, but it was an unbelievable opportunity. The biggest thing was I was the only person in the costume, and that was really important to me. I learned a lot from that. Some soft skills there. Make sure you're on time. Put in the effort to make sure it's done right. I got to skate and hockey. So many things that I was able to do. I mentioned the Aloha Bowl. I went to that. Traveled with basketball to the NCAA tournament. Things that I never would have been able to do. But I will say it was taxing. Every time I was in the costume, I was the only one in it for the whole game. I'd lose 10 pounds every time I was in the costume.
Okay, if you're a Sparty, it's supposed to be a secret, and people don't know you're a Sparty. Was it that way when you were the first one, or did the tradition start with you?
It was supposed to start with me. A lot of my friends did know. I lived with a couple football players. They knew. My girlfriend at the time, she knew. It wasn't as big of a secret as it is now. They do a much better job of keeping it undercover.
So when you think back at this, are you surprised at all, Dave, how the Sparty mascot has grown? I mean, it's a national figure, and it's well known everywhere.
That was one of the biggest things when I did talk to them about bringing back Sparty. They had a goal, and they modeled after the University of Georgia Bulldog. They wanted to be nationally known, and they did a phenomenal job of getting it out there, and it has grown so much. Like I say, the people that are in the costume now, I'm not sure I'd be able. I don't think I could be Sparty now. They are so much improved and so much better. The tryout process and what they do, they really do an unbelievable job of getting the right people in that costume.
Well, you're at all the football games. You haven't really missed one since the 1987 season. Let me ask you this. Advice that to new Sparties come up and ask you advice, or current Sparties say, hey, Dave, what do you think about this or that?
In general, don't take this for granted that you're doing a Sparty, because you mentioned earlier, Will, did you ever feel that it was going to grow or be what it is now? It is such an honor to be in that costume. It is more than you could ever believe. It's a big honor to be in that costume. So, to put it bluntly, don't screw it up.
That's always a good idea. Well, speaking of honors, you got a heck of an honor. This year, you're going to go into the Varsity S Club as an honorary member. And I'd like to ask you about that a little bit. When you got notified that you were going to be accepted into this club, which is a special group, what were your thoughts? How were you feeling?
Wow. what an incredible honor, because I did know a couple people that had that honor before, and to be considered, let alone being in the Varsity S Club as an honorary member it's unbelievable. Being a Spartan and being around Spartan athletics, it's pretty hard to get a higher honor as being a non-athlete, and then you get to be in their fraternity, really. So it's pretty amazing.
So as a final question, Dave, as you look back and you say to yourself, how cool was it that I was the first Sparty?
I was at lunch today, and I went up to the counter to get my food, and the lady behind the counter said, "Aren't you the first Sparty?" And just for people to know that you don't even know, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. I think it's to be the first one. Nobody can take that away from you from being the very first one. No matter who comes behind you, you're the first one that did it. And so I am proud of that I was the first one to be in that costume. That's something that nobody can take away from me forever.
Well, that is a neat thing. And by the way, Dave, congratulations on being the new member of the Varsity S Club. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
And we should also note that Dave Russell, since 1995, has been the liaison to the Big Ten football officials for MSU home football games. And he was also an assistant ticket manager at Michigan State from 1992 to 1996. Currently, he is the president of Hastings Fiberglass Products. Well, when we come back with more of the sports life, we're going to talk about why coaches coach and the good they find in it. But first, this break.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh, no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's Get It Done Right with some help. Fight! Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, as we said at the beginning of the show, if you want to talk about negative things in college sports, well, you've got a pretty good laundry list of things you could visit. Well, today we're going to take a little different approach. We're going to talk about coaches who still see good in coaching.
Yeah, and it really is a pretty neat thing. This actually kind of stemmed from a side project that I have with the Dribble Drive podcast, where we talk Big Ten women's basketball with myself and Austin Render, who's the voice of Indiana women's basketball. And we've been talking with all the coaches throughout the offseason, and we started to strike this theme of why coaching has such a positive impact and why it still matters to the coaches through the midst of all the changes and all the chaos and everything going on. And we found some pretty good answers. So let's start off in East Lansing, where Michigan State's Robin Freilich gets ready to enter her third season. She shares what is so good and special still about coaching.
But I think that, the landscape has changed so much since I took the job. So athletics has changed dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years. And so I think we're always learning. I think right now we have to be really adaptable. I think we have to kind of figure out the new landscape. But what has stayed the same, and I coached Division II basketball, I've coached mid-major basketball, and obviously at Michigan State, is the things that matter always matter. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care how the athletic landscape continues to change. There's just certain things that are fundamental in building a program, a player's experience, and how to try to be, how to be competitive. And those things have sustained at every level. And so as a staff, with all of these changes, which, for coaches, administrators, players are like, we're kind of always trying to understand what's going on. The cool thing is, and our staff has really focused on, just focus on the things that matter, right? The things that matter always matter. And, I think our team understands that that's where our priority is.
The things that matter always matter. Robin Freilich, head women's basketball coach at Michigan State. I think she nailed it.
No, I think so too. And actually, we started with her because that's where this whole series started to begin. As we had more and more coaches on, we started to ask some follow-ups to those coaches to get their perspectives. Next one in line, Oregon's head coach on the women's side, Kelly Graves. Kelly's had some tremendous success leading Oregon to national relevance. He talked about why coaching still has such a positive impact.
I think coaches can have a huge impact still on young people's lives. A lot of them, and some of them, need more direction than they've ever gotten because oftentimes they're not getting it at home like we did in my generation, and so you can have an impact on their lives, and I get feedback all the time, some negative as well, but a lot of positive ones. I get those texts, Coach, thank you so much for everything you did and taught me this, blah, blah, blah. The relationship building is still a big part of it. You have a chance to just develop great relationships. I spend more time during the season with my staff and my players than I do my own family. And so you can become quite close. And then we're providing, I think, a great service, entertainment. A lot of people, if you've been around Eugene, you know that people are women's basketball fans here. It's part of the culture. And just this morning at, my oral surgeon, huge fan. Kids come to the games. They've been coming for years. And so I know it's a big part of people's lives. And I like that we can bring them that joy.
Kelly Graves, head basketball coach of the women's team at Oregon. I'm trying to imagine he's at the dentist. And I wonder if, how they can work on you. And they always ask you questions when you can't answer.
Uh-huh.
Coach, what do you think about that Purdue game coming?
I love that, too. Well, it was funny, too, because Kelly and I shared a moment off air where he brought up the oral surgeon then during that interview because I had my wisdom teeth out right around that same time. So we were having some fun with each other. But beyond that, how about we transfer now over to Evanston, Illinois, where Joe McEwen, who's been a long-time head coach for Northwestern women's basketball, gets ready to enter his final season as head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats. He talked about the impact that coaching has on young people.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dalton. And I think the biggest thing is, again, the relationships. And, there's a lot of young people here that I've brought in, and I've watched them grow up. And they've gone through some hard times. We've supported each other. And, I want to see them succeed. I want to see them graduate from Northwestern, which, it sets you up for the rest of your life if you take advantage of our degree. And, those type of things are really the most important thing. And, just to see them and go through the, all the things that come with that, to go through it with them, knowing that your experience, you've been through this before, they never have. So, you want to be a compass for them if you can and just help them wherever you can. And I enjoy that part. And it's tough love. There's a picture that I'm looking at of Pat Summit, who's a good friend of mine. And, I was at her service and I'm looking at the celebration. And, she preached tough love every day, And I think that, they're the things that when you see the end result of that with players, Maggie Lyons on my staff right now. Played for me, went through a lot with me. Ivy is on my staff right now, played for me at GW, went through injuries, played in Europe. And next thing you know, she's working at Northwestern. And, you see those things and it makes you feel like, hey, you're doing the right things.
Well, Joe did a lot of right things. Entering his 17th year at Northwestern, he began coaching way back in the 86-87 season at New Mexico State. Was a former Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2020. He's done pretty well everywhere he's been. But I think anybody that's met him, Dalton, just gets this sense that this is a grounded person. And if you're a parent, you have no problem having him take care of your child.
No, I think you're spot on. And, you talk about the longevity of his career. I obviously spent a lot of time at Northwestern. Also, the stop before at George Washington, he was their all-time leading coach in wins, too. So, in two different stops, he's the all-time winningest. Just an amazing career. And to your point, when the Big Ten radio guys kind of get together and we interact and talk, we all decided that if there was one coach to have dinner with in Big Ten women's basketball, Joe McEwen is the guy you want to spend that evening with. Just really humble, to your point. Kind of saving the best for last when it comes to the good of coaching. Minnesota's head women's basketball coach, Dawn Plitzowite, had a really good story about some of the student athletes that she trains and coaches and kind of goes through this journey with. Let's hear what Dawn has to say from Minnesota about the good of coaching.
Oh, 100%. We have a young lady, Sophie Hart, who just finished up an internship. And in her internship, she had a presentation on the last day and on second to last day. And so she sent me a picture of her in her power stance, where she's building confidence. And we did this biological research on why that really works. And then, she talked about how she kind of got nervous and got sped up at first, but then went back to her media training and she felt really confident about it. And she took a picture with the CEO and the senior vice president and sent it. Well, that confidence that she gained through different experiences is going to carry her far into her future. And that's what's really fun about this. Yes, that happens on the basketball court, no question. And what happens on the basketball court, it can correlate and it can transfer. It can be a transferable skill off the court. But when it happens off the court, it can also be a transferable skill on the court. And so watching young ladies grow in their ability to do new things, to get out of their comfort zone, try new things, which is really hard for anybody, not just college age students, but grow in trying new things. And then understanding that It's not always going to go your way, but frustration isn't going to help. So how do you adjust it? How do you try something new? How do you bounce back? And then all of a sudden you do something that you haven't done before. You have the ability to try something at another level, but it just keeps growing. This cycle of being confident enough to try new things, having success in new things, obviously not always right away, but then being willing to try new things. That's what this is all about. That's when this is really fun. Yes, championships, important. That's what we're striving for. Yes, postseason opportunities, 100%. But this is a lot bigger, in my opinion, than just trying to go on the court and win games.
And I think she's right. It is much bigger than that. And I think people realize that later as their life progresses. She talks about getting in a power stance.
That's right.
Do we have like an announcer power stance?
Well, maybe we could create something here. I mean, you're onto something. We could teach some seminars, some clinics.
Get ready for the big game, getting your power stance.
That's TBD. So keep an eye out for that coming up later on. But one more thing we do want to get in here. It's a little bit different, but this was a funny story that came out of the Dribble Drive podcast that we talked about, that myself and Austin Render do as a side project, talking Big Ten women's basketball. And it's about Oregon and Kelly Graves yet again, the head coach there in Eugene. He had a player who's been a great for him, Peyton Scott, who finally graduated. She's done playing college basketball. He decided to bring her on his staff. He explains why, but also gets to a pretty funny story about their contract negotiation.
Oh, Peyton's amazing. I mean, she's going to have my job someday. She was born to be a coach. She's a great leader on the court. Was our heart and soul the last couple of years. Unfortunately, she was injured 2 years ago, and it really hurt us. But last year, just had an amazing year, scored over 2,000 points in her career. And so she was a no-brainer when we had a new position open. We created a new position. It was a no-brainer. She wants to get into business. It was really kind of funny, though, fellas. This is the day and age we live in. When she, signed the written offer, right, accepted the position, she saw the salary and she goes, "Coach, that's less than I was making in the NIL." and I go, "Guess what, Peyton? Welcome to the real world. What these kids have been living in is not really the real world." So she had a rude awakening, but we're really happy about having her. She's going to elevate the program even more.
How crazy is that?
And we've all figured that's got to be a conversation at some point, right? A reality. But to actually hear it from one of the coaches was just hilarious.
I mean, in the NBA, okay, a player makes more than the head coach. Okay, we get that.
Sure.
In college? What?
It is wild. What a wild time.
It is really goofy. Well, when we come back with more of the sports life, we're going to talk about this thing that changed the way you can market your conference. It was called the Big Ten Network. What was it? How did it start? We'll have the story in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners make sense for you. Well, the Big Ten Network has redefined how we look at conference television. People question, would it work? Could a conference have its own TV network in the truest sense? Well, we know the answer is yes, but that wasn't so clear way back. And Chris Castle, one of our original hosts here on the Sports Life, had a chance to catch up with the first president of the Big Ten Network, Mark Silverman, and they talked about how this whole thing got underway.
Well, we're excited to have you today. So thinking back to 2007 or even before that for you, you already had a tremendous career in broadcasting, working for Disney and ABC and others. What's your first memory of hearing about this thing called the Big Ten Network, and what did you think then?
Yeah, a coworker at Disney had recently moved over to Fox, and we were having lunch, and he said, I'm working on this really interesting deal with the Big Ten Conference to establish a network. This is probably early 2006 or so, and I thought it sounded really interesting. And he said, yeah, we're going to go in and do a long-term deal. We're going to make a big investment, speaking on the Fox side, and we'd be, might be something you would be interested in running. And I said, yeah. I go, I'm not sure if it would. I go, well, are you going to have football and basketball on the network? And he looked at me and goes, yeah, of course. There's going to be a ton of football and basketball. And when he mentioned that, I was very familiar with the Big Ten. And I knew that the second I heard you had the leverage and the know-how that Fox brought to, and the resources that Fox brings to the table, and you have the Big Ten universities and the fans and the great programs. I right away. I mean, I'm kind of a skeptical person by nature. It doesn't take much. Most things I kind of shrug my shoulders at. But when I heard that, I thought this was going to be something that was going to be successful, and I was very interested. And I started, from that point on, pursuing the role and meeting with Commissioner Delaney, and it was. And look, it's become, more successful than anything I could have really thought about. But right when I heard it, I really believed in the concept that it would be successful.
So that was really a game changer when you take what was maybe traditionally known as a third-tier game, like the unselected football and basketball games, and bring those up to the Big Ten Network. That's the difference maker in your mind, and that's really why it's been successful, you think?
Yeah, the structure of it, right? It had, obviously you had the local appeal with these third-tier games, and you still knew that the hardcore fans would want it. But the way the network was structured, and that wasn't me. I mean, that was really the Big Ten Conference doing a lot of this, and Delaney. when they made sure that the network had 3 number 2 football picks and 3 number 3 football picks. So basically half the football season, half of the weeks of the football season, you're going to have the second or third best game in the Big Ten. So you had a national appeal as well going in, as well as a local appeal. And in basketball, Big Ten Network had, I believe, I think 60, 70 conference basketball games. So even if they weren't the top 10 or 20 picks for basketball, the conference is so deep that you knew you were getting quality matchups left and right just due to the quantity. And the more I read about it and asked questions, I just knew if you're a Big Ten alum, a Big Ten fan, a Big Ten student, this is something you're going to quickly adapt to it and really enjoy.
So you guys were really creating a new way of doing business. You no longer was the Big Ten just content to take a check from an existing media network. You were creating a new way of doing business, building something new. Was there any point early on where you hit a wall or you came upon some obstacle and you were like, what are we doing? And then was there a time when you thought everything is really coming together and this is going to work?
Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of times, good things don't come without a lot of effort and some challenges and struggles. And we were no exception. I mean, I'd say the 2 big challenges that we had, I started the role December of 2006, and we were going live in August 2007. So, basically had 8 months to staff a network, figure out our programming, hire production people, understand, sell advertising, get distribution deals done. We had a massive amount of work to do in a really short amount of time. And then you couple that with, a phone call I got from SBJ in early July. We're launching now 6-8 weeks later, and we don't have many distribution agreements at the time. And the reporter, who's since become a friend of mine, but at the time I didn't really know very well, he called me and he said, I'm writing an article for tomorrow in this trade magazine. And I just spoke with the heads of Comcast, Time Warner, and Charter, and they all told me there's absolutely no way they're ever going to carry the Big Ten Network. I'd like a comment, please. And I was completely thrown off guard. I had no idea this was coming. And from that point on, for the next couple of months, and then leading into throughout that first year of BTN, we had no big cable companies looking to carry us. And, kind of, Chris, what you mentioned, we're trying to start a new model. And, we felt, similar to the way like a regional sports network, Fox Sports Detroit or some others, they get compensated by the cable company, and then it's just part of your cable lineup. And we felt if you have compelling enough programming, if you're relevant enough to enough people in the area, that's the level of service we should be on. And that was what we had believed, and we fought to be distributed at that level. And the cable companies united, and they did not let us get carriage. And there was a lot of negative outcry from the media and from the fan base. And the media didn't really kind of understand. All people started gathering as we now launched and we're on the air, that their games weren't on. And it got to be pretty dicey there for a while. And we literally went the first full year without Comcast, Time Warner, or Charter. We were on DirecTV, and we got Dish Network. A real quick story. I know I've been going here for a little bit.
Oh, it's great.
But no, so we're now launching. It's the opening week. It's Labor Day. We're on the air. We're not on any major cable system throughout the Midwest and the country, really. And we happen to luck in to getting the Michigan Appalachian State football game as our first game.
That's right.
And a lot of what the negative reaction to us had been was that we had no quality games and nobody cared about what was on our network, so people wouldn't miss it. So, we ended up having this Michigan Appalachian State game. We thought it would be a decent game. Appalachian State, Division II school, I believe at the time, had done well, but, it was still Michigan at the Big House. So it's our first game, And, we're in the control room. We had gone through a lot of negative publicity, and this had become pretty heated. A lot of Michigan fans missing out watching this game. Then the game comes on. It's a really good game. Appalachian State takes a big lead. They're fast. They're quick. They look really good. Michigan starts coming back towards the end. Fantastic ending. Michigan makes a long pass play in the closing seconds. They're trotting out to kick what would be a game-winning field goal after trailing the entire game. And our executive producer at the time, we're in the control room, and everyone's pretty excited. It's our first game. The network has only been live for a few hours. And I turned to my producer, and I said, gosh, unbelievable. What a game. This is amazing. Let him kick the game-winning field goal, and, it'll be a great first day. And then the producer, who happened to have gone to Purdue, turns to me, and he said, wouldn't it be better if he misses it? And I look at him, and he goes, think of all the publicity that this game will get if Michigan loses this game.
Right.
And I said, yeah, I guess, but, come on, we need Michigan to win. So the field goal ends up being blocked. Appalachian State's dancing on the side, at the big house. It's at the time considered the biggest upset in college football history. And it's on this little tiny network that launched 18 hours earlier that's barely seen anywhere in the country. And all of a sudden, our phones start ringing. ESPN's asking to run highlights and run it all over on SportsCenter. And we say, fine, as long as you put the Big Ten Network logo in all of our highlights. You can't take that out.
Right.
So all of a sudden, we're the lead story on SportsCenter. All people are seeing is the Big Ten Network clips and the highlights. TV stations throughout the Midwest weren't able to record the game. So for their nightly newscasts, they don't have highlights of this game. And they're asking us, can you send us highlights of the game? Can you send us highlights of the game? And we're saying, sure, just you have to mention the game was on Big Ten Network. The game was on Big Ten Network. So a week later, we got a Dish Network deal done. We got a bunch of other smaller cable deals done. And that game really helped kind of put us on the map. And definitely one of I don't want to call it like fondest memories, since I am a Big Ten guy and I'm not happy Michigan lost, but it probably, at the end of the day was a positive for us.
Yeah, but in the world of brand building, Michigan taking a loss that day meant how much more for the whole conference, including Michigan. So that's a tremendous story.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah.
So you mentioned Jim Delaney earlier, and everybody certainly knows about his history and his legacy and everything he did for the Big Ten. At the end of the day, when history writes the book about Jim Delaney, is the development, the execution, the conception of the Big Ten Network, is that his crowning achievement? Is that the most impactful long-term role for the conference?
It's definitely up there. And this is, I can't even describe at the time he just made this decision, how bold a move it was. There was not, everyone, launching these conference networks now, on the heels of ESPN, whatever, that doesn't take a heck of a lot to go have ESPN launch a network for you, which is what some of these other conferences have done.
Sure.
I mean, what Delaney and the Big Ten did, when they ESPN at the time was the only game in town willing to spend money for programming rights, and ESPN knew it, and they really lowballed the Big Ten when the deal was up, and the commissioner went from network to network trying to find an alternative. Nobody was spending money for college rights at the time. And he came up with this concept after seeing what the Yankees had done with Yes Network in New York. And he found a partner in Fox willing to take a risk. Fox, always a big risk-taking company under the Murdochs. They'll take a gamble that other companies really wouldn't do. And you had Jim able to get the presidents, who I don't know if they actually fully understood the risk that they were taking. And I don't know, frankly, if Jim really, to this day, you put him on a lie detector, I don't think he had any idea how difficult this would be, and that we'd go a full year with a lot of people not watching their games. Not that we would do it any differently, but I think it was a lot harder than we all realized it would be. But for Jim to kind of have that vision and the fight in him, and he and I worked very closely to help get this network distributed. I mean, it's literally, it's probably brought in $500 million to the Big Ten schools beyond what other conferences had by having that desire and the fight in him and the vision to go to make this happen.
Yeah, and you mentioned, certainly it continues to be the leader of all collegiate conference, television networks. But I think what, with all the hard work you and others have done over the years, I think the one thing that's really impressive to me too is I believe it was still, even to this day, when it was launched in 2007, it was still launched to the most households of any network on day one. Is that true? Is that accurate?
It was at the time. Yeah, I don't know if it still is. At the time we had 30 million homes in the first 30 days, and a lot of that was because the story I just talked about. Yeah. The Michigan game helped bring in a lot more to get to. At launch, we did not have anywhere near that amount, but we got there after a few weeks as people were missing their games, and the cable operators were starting to get pressure from their local subscribers. So they started adding the network. So it was successful at launch relative to others, but it really we didn't hit our stride until the second year when we got the Comcast deal done, got the Time Warner deal done, got some of the other larger cable companies. And by year two, it was a very, very, we hit break even quickly, and then we just started really, really growing. And, the beauty of this network is the conference kind of gets to double dip. I mean, the BTN pays the conference a rights fee, a significant rights fee, and then the conference also participates in the profit of the network. So there's two ways the conference benefits, and that's a different structure than any of these other conference networks. None of these other conferences, other than the Pac-12, but they own a network that's just struggling and not really worth anything, or not worth much, I should say. The other conference networks, those are ESPN-owned networks.
Right.
So this is really the only one that the Big Ten has grown an asset that then they can monetize down the road, and it's a massive growing asset. So again, really a great structure. Everyone from Fox and from the Big Ten, I think, is just really proud of what we've been able to do together.
Well, Mark, it's a great story. It continues to make an impact. It continues to unite the fan bases across the Big Ten and across the country. And, you played a huge role in it, and we just appreciate your time today. And thanks for the insight and the information.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It always kind of, brings a smile on my face to reminisce about those days. So thanks for having me.
Who would have guessed the Big Ten Network would be so big? And I would have never guessed Appalachian State would beat the Wolverines for their first game in the football world. So when we come back, our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Fun show. We now know how the first Sparty became the first Sparty. Great chat with some of the women's basketball coaches in the Big Ten, why they still love coaching. And that story about the Big Ten Network is so good. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
So we have now worked our way to our parting shots, Dalton.
And we're going to do something a little bit unique with this one here this week. And by the way, if you aren't already, make sure you follow us on Twitter or X. At Sports Life Now is our name. That's, again, at Sports Life Now. For our parting shot, we decided we kind of wanted to go full circle with what we were doing. We started this entire show talking about, in the Sounds of the Week, Illinois changing the Memorial Stadium name to the Geese Memorial Stadium with a $100 million commitment that Larry Geese and the Geese family are making to Illinois athletics. And it got us thinking a little bit about the tradition and history that is so rich with Illinois athletics. And it dates all the way back to when Memorial Stadium was first dedicated, Will.
Well, you're going to go back to the 20s. And
it's 100 years.
Yeah. Here's a. I know you like numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You just threw out that 100 million number. It just rolled off your tongue. In today's money, it cost $31 million to build Memorial Stadium. Wow. He's donating more than it cost to build the place in today's cash.
Could have 3 stadiums.
But the Memorial Stadium is really a special place. And it got the name Memorial Stadium because it was a tribute to all the students at the University of Illinois who lost their lives in World War I. And if you ever had a chance to go to the game there, to this day, they have the columns, and they have names in all the columns. And later they would extend that to World War II, people who gave their lives for our country. And that was one thing. But if you like sports, one of the greatest sports moments of all time was the dedication game. It was Michigan and Illinois, and most college football fans have heard of Red Grange. He touched the ball 5 times in that dedication game. He scored 5 touchdowns. So he did pretty good as Illini beat the Wolverines in that one, 39-14. So, and then you go through the history of Chief Illinois. So this facility is really special. And this gift, and put your name on something like Memorial Stadium, is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Well, with that is a wrap for our show this week. As always, thanks to everybody for joining us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.